Tonight, back in the Tennessee House.
A message for all the people in Nashville who decided to expel us. You can't expel hope.
Nearly a week after being expelled from the Tennessee legislature, Justin Pearson takes his seat back. What happens next and what members of the opposing party are now saying? We'll speak with one of them. Plus,
every woman deserves to have good care. Every woman deserves to have personal care. And every woman deserves to have her baby in a safe place.
Getting maternal care is difficult enough. Now it's only getting harder. In our prime focus tonight, we take a look at the ripple effect the closing of maternity wards across the country is having on expectant mothers and how others are filling that void. And
it's a big responsibility. I am representing my culture.
We hear from the Palestinian Chilean singer set to become the first person to perform at Coachella entirely in Arabic, and how her music is taking the world by storm. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We're following those stories and much more, including the newly released 911 calls from the Louisville bank shooting, what the suspect's own mother was saying as she heard about her son's action, plus the latest on a developing environmental and public health crisis out of Indiana, where a massive fire at a recycling facility has forced officials to evacuate thousands of residents, the departure of one news organization from Twitter, one of the most popular social media platforms in the world, and why it could be the start of a mass exodus, and the new warning for Airbnb owners and renters alike after criminals use the short-term rental properties for their own purposes. Our correspondents are fanned out across the country covering those stories and more for us tonight, but we do begin with the new disturbing details that we're learning about that mass shooting at the Louisville, Kentucky bank and the frantic calls from people trying to stop it, including the suspect's own mother. She apparently called 911 after a tip from her son's roommate and told the operator her son may be armed and on his way to the bank. Another caller was hiding in a closet within the bank and was told by the operator to stay quiet. Police responded within minutes, but tonight, one of the doctors who treated some of the patients is pointing out how much more deadly AR-15 assault rifles are than handguns, saying the difference in the type of injuries he sees are, quote, night and day. Trevor Alt leads us off once again tonight from Louisville.
Tonight, chilling new 911 calls revealing as the Louisville gunman's rampage unfolded inside Old National Bank, his own mother was trying to warn police.
Well, my son might be. He apparently has a gun and he's heading toward the Old National at on Main Street here in Louisville.
Main Street, Old National?
Yes, and this is his mother. I'm so sorry. I'm getting details secondhand. I'm running to it now. Oh, my Lord.
Okay. And what exactly is going on with him? What is he saying he's doing?
I don't know. I'm getting this information from his roommate. He apparently left a note. I don't know what to do. I need your help. I think he's never hurt me once. He's a really good kid. Please don't come up to him. Please, he's nonviolent. Mm-hmm. He's never done anything. Please.
Okay. And you don't believe he owns guns?
I know he doesn't own any guns.
What that mother apparently didn't know is that he'd purchased an AR-15 just 6 days prior. And as the shooting began, more calls coming in. You can hear the fear and the gunfire from this caller hiding in a closet.
Is that shots fired?
Yeah.
Okay. Just stay quiet.
Officials say the shooter first opened fire in a crowded conference room meeting. Another caller was attending virtually over Microsoft Teams.
And how do you know you have an active shooter on the site?
I just watched it.
How'd you watch? You watched it on
meeting?
On a Teams meeting?
This video's still going. Oh my God! I can't see anything now except for someone on the ground.
Stop right here. Back up, back up, back up, back up.
3 minutes after those first 911 calls, officers Nicholas Wilt and Corey Galloway arriving on scene. As they approach, Officer Wilt shot in the head. Officer Galloway grazed by a bullet, still killing the suspect moments later.
Suspect down! Get the officer!
But even with that swift response, 5 people were killed, many more injured. The chief medical officer at the hospital treating the victims, talking about the damage done by an AR-15 round.
The rifle rounds pulverize and liquefy tissue because of how fast they're moving. They powder bone. They tear large gaping holes in tissue. You don't see that with a handgun. You simply don't.
Overnight, the family of Connor Sturgeon writing, "No words can express our sorrow, anguish, and horror at the unthinkable harm our son Connor inflicted on innocent people, their families, and the entire Louisville community." Adding, while Connor had mental health challenges which we as a family were actively addressing, there were never any warning signs or indications he was capable of this shocking act.
Shocking and just so disturbing. Trevor joins us now from Louisville. Trevor, we know that the suspect bought that AR-15 legally 6 days before the shooting. Is there anything in the system at all that alerts authorities of mental health issues?
No, there's not. There is no Kentucky law that prevents a person who is actively undergoing mental health treatment from buying a weapon legally. And also, Kentucky law now prevents authorities from destroying this shooter's AR-15. Instead, this gun is likely going to be auctioned off back to the public.
All right, Trevor Alt, our thanks to you. In Tennessee now, the second black Democrat expelled from the State House after a gun control protest. Representative Justin Pearson has his job back tonight. Pearson was reinstated by a unanimous vote of his local Board of Commissioners. And now Senate Democrats are asking the Justice Department to investigate those expulsions. Here's ABC's Alex Perez.
You gotta serve the people who sent you.
Tonight, a major win for Justin Pearson as Shelby County officials in Tennessee using their power to unanimously reinstate the representative.
Reclaim democracy. We want democracy.
Energized, Pearson addressing supporters who marched through Memphis today.
They tried to kill democracy. They tried to expel the people's choice and the people's vote. And they awakened a sleeping giant.
Representative Justin Jones reinstated Monday.
Expelled.
Both black Democrats ousted by the Republican-led legislature.
We will not be silent.
After taking to the floor of the chamber, demanding something be done about gun control, just days after 3 9-year-olds, a custodian, a teacher, and a principal were killed in a school shooting. Fellow Democrat Gloria Johnson, who is white, spared expulsion by 1 vote. And tonight, late word, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has asked the DOJ to investigate whether Tennessee Republicans who ousted the pair violated the Constitution or civil rights laws.
Alex Perez joins us now. Alex, so when will Pearson officially return to his position?
Well, Lindsay, Representative Pearson will be right here on the steps of the Capitol. He will be re-sworn in tomorrow morning. And Lindsay, there's still about a month left in this session before the legislature closes for the session. So there's still work to be done here, Lindsay.
Right back where they started. All right, Alex Perez for us. Thanks so much, Alex. Joining us now is Assistant Republican Leader in the Tennessee House, Representative Mark Cochran. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Leader Cochran. In comments to a local paper, you said that you had no problem with the 3 representatives protesting, but, quote, "You cannot take over the floor of the House of Representatives because it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people of Tennessee." Does the punishment fit the transgression here? Was expulsion the right way to go?
Lindsay, yeah, thank you for having me this evening. And yeah, as I stated before, I think it's just, again, that floor belongs to the people of Tennessee. There are rules of decorum in place to ensure that all voices are heard. Now, often in the General Assembly here in Nashville, there is, we have very spirited debate. And that's a welcome part of the legislative process. But when you have 1 or just a few representatives hijack the floor for their own purposes, that silences the rest of Tennessee, because that is where the business of the people is conducted. And so when you hijack that for nearly an hour, yes, I think that's an insult to the institution and really an insult to the people of Tennessee. So that's ultimately why I landed on the side of expelling all 3 members.
Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, Gloria Johnson have all become household names since the 2 of them, the 3 of them were expelled just a week ago. Are there any regrets about elevating these state lawmakers through that expulsion, only to see them now back on the House floor, but with much greater attention and potentially power?
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest, I think the biggest shame of what occurred 2 weeks ago, what happened on March 30th, is when they hijacked the House floor of the state of Tennessee, it took attention off of 6 victims of a school shooting. And it took attention off the victims' families. I think that is again one of the biggest travesties of their actions. It took attention off of a very important issue, one that we were already working toward, one that we were finding solutions, and it put that attention on them. And so I think that if there's a regret, I think that is it, and that again, their actions place attention on themselves rather than the victims of that horrible tragedy at Covenant.
So to that point, let's get to the substance of what the three representatives were protesting. Today is just the 102nd day of 2023, and according to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been 147 mass shootings in that time. You, of course, represent the people of Tennessee, and children were also in the State House the day that led to the expulsion. They and their parents were protesting as well, chanting, "Save our children." A recent poll of Tennessee parents found more than 70% believe that schools would be safer if background checks are expanded to be required for all gun sales. Do you support that measure?
Right, and as far as what the people of Tennessee support and the parents of Tennessee support, the most recent Vanderbilt poll reflects that over 80% of parents in Tennessee believe that what would make our schools the safest is if every one of them has an SRO. And that's exactly what Tennessee is doing. We're funding that to the tune of $200 million. We just passed a bill to set up the framework for that. Interestingly enough, it was a bipartisan support. I believe it received over 90 votes. Ironically, however, the three representatives who claim to be the voices of children across Tennessee voted against that comprehensive school safety bill. And so, again, Tennessee was already working toward solutions to make our students safer. Unfortunately, you had three representatives that wanted the spotlight on themselves and did not actually want to be a part of the conversation to find solutions.
Firearms recently became the leading cause of death for children and teens in this country. Tennessee's Republican governor has called on the General Assembly directly to toughen gun restrictions. It's now been more than 2 weeks since the school shooting at the Covenant School. What specific reforms are you prepared to support?
Yeah, Lindsay, and we're prepared to work with the governor's office. We're looking at that. No specific bill has been filed at this time. Anything that the state of Tennessee passes, it's going to be something that honors due process, and we're going to ensure that again, before anyone's right to bear arms is infringed upon, that there is due process, that's not done lightly. There are parts of the code perhaps that we can look at regarding mental illness and ensuring that criminals or those who are dangerous do not have firearms. But again, all of that is going to lead with due process. No one can just arbitrarily take someone's firearms. That's a protected constitutional right. But we are always willing to look at sections of the code to see what can be strengthened. And again, specifically those sections regarding mental illness and those who may have a violent record. We want to make sure that those people do not have guns and those folks who are dangerous are not able to harm others.
And lastly, for people, because I know that the Republicans in Tennessee have pushed back on allegations of racism, I am curious why you feel that Gloria Johnson was allowed to stay and not expelled, because she has said herself that she felt that it was simply because of the color of her skin that she was not expelled. Curious your response to that.
Yeah, and I found her response very curious. You look at the vote tally there. You had 65 members vote to expel Gloria Johnson, so that's one vote shy. And what I find so interesting is she's standing in solidarity with Representative Jones and Representative Pearson now. But if you go back and you watch her you watch her testimony from the House floor, she spent nearly an hour distancing herself from them, saying that she was not the one holding the bullhorn. She wasn't the one chanting. So she wants to claim that it's about race. Perhaps it's just because she threw her two friends under the bus.
But just to go back to my original question, just curious why you think that she ultimately was not expelled. What made her different from her two colleagues?
Right, and I voted to expel all three. And perhaps, if you spoke to those members who voted the other way, I don't know. Perhaps they would say that maybe she made her case more strongly. I can't answer for them, again, as I voted to expel all three.
Appreciate the academic...
As did the majority of our caucus.
I appreciate the academic discussion. Leader Mark Cochran, really appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Tonight, there are serious environmental concerns 24 hours after a massive fire broke out at a plastics recycling plant in Indiana. Firefighters battled the flames around the clock. Part of the 14-acre facility is still on fire, in fact, and it could take days to put it out. The EPA is warning that the smoke is harmful, and the town's mayor is demanding the plant's owner pay up. Alex Perche reports.
Tonight, frustration and anger in Richmond, Indiana, after this recycling plant fire many say should never have happened.
We were aware that what was operating here was a fire hazard. So this was a fear for us and why we've taken so many steps to prevent this from happening.
The city of Richmond had ordered the business owner to clean up, but officials say they were ignored. Satellite images show the buildup of recyclable materials outside the facility over the past decade. Overnight, first responders containing the flames, but they're expected to burn for days. Officials believe it started Tuesday afternoon. A semi-trailer caught fire.
The blaze spreading to this abandoned recycling facility.
Evacuations ordered for more than 2,000 residents within a half mile. Others outside the evacuation zone asked to shelter in place.
Health officials say that breathing in toxic particles found in smoke could cause burning of the eyes, tightening in the chest, bronchitis, and aggravate asthma.
Nikki Williams and her family forced out of their home.
What's your biggest concern now?
Smoke damage, I don't know how that works. I don't know how much damage the smoke will do.
Alex Perche joins us now from Indiana. So, Alex, what comes next here?
Well, Lindsay, the EPA is on the ground monitoring the situation. We reached out to that facility's owner for comment and have not yet heard back. But, Lindsay, as you can see, this plume behind me, that fire is still burning. Lindsay?
All right, Alex Perche, our thanks to you. Now to the ongoing fallout from those leaked classified documents. Among the most troubling involved Ukraine and concerns about their planned spring offensive. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is back in Kyiv tonight and has the response from Ukraine's chief intelligence official.
Tonight, shockwaves from the massive leak of classified documents being felt by U.S. allies around the world, and nowhere more than here in Ukraine. The top-secret files suggest potential problems for Ukraine, including a dire shortage of air defense missiles. And now, a U.S. official confirming to ABC News that American intelligence thinks a spring offensive is unlikely to capture as much territory as last year's counteroffensive. Tonight, the head of Ukrainian military intelligence saying he spoke to his U.S. counterparts within hours of seeing the leak. In his first interview since they became public, Major General Budanov telling ABC News Ukraine has launched its own investigation, including whether all the documents are authentic. Budanov accuses Russia of trying to weaken relations with Ukraine's partners and destabilize the situation.
So you think there's a Russian mole inside the Pentagon?
Budanov will only say some documents look authentic and appear as some sort of spying operation. And tonight, the State Department confirming 2 Americans have died while volunteering to fight in Ukraine. Grady Kirpaz, who was last seen in April last year, and Edward Wilton from Marianna, Florida, killed last week in fighting around Bakhmut.
Just 2 of so many. Ian Pannell joins us now from Kyiv. Ian, you also have news tonight about a small U.S. military presence in Ukraine. What's the latest there?
Yeah, Lindsay, pretty remarkable, actually. A U.S. official confirming to ABC News that a small military special operations team has actually been based at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv since early in the war. Now, apparently the team is providing intelligence assistance to Ukrainian special forces, although the official is at pains to stress that they are not on the front lines, although they are working with Ukrainian special forces. However, a former U.S. official saying that they helped plan the killing of hundreds and thousands of Russian troops. Truly remarkable. Lindsay?
It is indeed. All right, Ian Pannell for us from Kyiv. Thanks so much, Ian. And that's not the only legal development involving Trump today. After a judge overseeing the Dominion $1.6 billion defamation case against Fox News imposed a sanction against the network after it, quote, made misrepresentations to the court and potentially withheld evidence. The move comes on the eve of the major trial kicking off. ABC's Aaron Katersky joins us now. So, Aaron, what does all this mean, and how might this sanction impact that case?
It's really the latest blow, Lindsay, to Fox News on the eve of this $1.6 billion defamation trial. The judge imposed a financial penalty over an apparent delay in turning over some pretrial evidence. But crucially, he's also now considering whether to appoint someone to investigate whether Fox News was negligent in the way it handled all the evidence pretrial, and that could cost some sanctions depending on how it goes. And the judge, Lindsay, had already limited the way Fox News can defend itself, ruling that the network cannot argue it was merely repeating President Trump's allegations about Dominion's voting machines simply because they were newsworthy. Jury selection is scheduled to begin tomorrow, Lindsay.
Be interesting to see how it all plays out. Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you as always. Still much more to get to here on Prime tonight. The desperate search for the young man who fell off of a cliff and into a river. But next, in our Prime focus, labor and delivery wards are closing in rural areas, putting women at risk by forcing them to travel long distances to the nearest hospitals, the lengths that some towns are going to in order to make sure expectant mothers get the care they need.
We teach you how to intubate a baby. We teach you how to deliver a baby.
So this is not something they're supposed to be doing.
They're being forced to do it because of these deserts.
Whenever news breaks.
The crush of families here in Poland.
Here in Kentucky, no match for the tornado.
From Monterey Park, California, on the ground in Ukraine.
Reporting from Uvalde, Texas.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
From Kathmandu, Nepal.
Truckee, California, covering record snowfall.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
Here at this airport in Tampa, it's already shut down.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Reporting from Jerusalem.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. Been a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning, America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Welcome back. Women of childbearing age in maternity care deserts across the country see no relief ahead as hospitals across the U.S. continue to shutter labor and delivery units. Our Faith Abube visited some of the areas to speak with the people most impacted, including on Yakima Nation grounds in Washington State.
We're getting back into our normal lives.
Early on in her pregnancy, Tori Wapsheli made plans to deliver her second child in the same hospital as her first, Astria-Toppenish Hospital on the Yakima Indian Reservation in Washington State. But with just 3 months left to go, the hospital suddenly shut down its labor and delivery ward, leaving her scrambling.
I think it was just nerve-wracking.
As the shock spread across the Yakima Indian Reservation, many other pregnant women realized that they too needed new plants, and quick. Sierra Wheeler was more than 7.5 months along. The hospital closure would mean a 45-minute drive to the nearest delivery unit.
Just being so far out here, Toppenish was the place that would have worked easier.
Options for maternal care on the reservation have gone from bad to worse.
It's like really troublesome and disheartening, but not surprising.
The Yakima Indian Reservation spans more than 1 million acres, And pregnant women looking for care are often forced to travel roads that can easily become dangerous depending on the weather.
This area is very rural. It is isolated, so the traveling distance plus the resources that are needed to get quality care are not there.
Jessica Whitehawk founded the Tatawach Birth Justice Center with the help of birth advocates Leslie Swan and Simone Dittenholler.
It's a fresh light.
These women with backgrounds in maternal care are on a mission.
We're providing a safe space, whether it's for 5 minutes to an hour. We invite all of our moms to come back and take a load off.
Let's get baby's heartbeat.
Dr. Anita Showalter schedules clinics at the center every Wednesday to see pre- and postnatal patients.
Every woman deserves to have good care. Every woman deserves to have personal care. And every woman deserves to have her baby in a safe place.
A recent March of Dimes report found that over a third of U.S. counties are maternal care deserts. That's more than 2.2 million women of childbearing age and 146,000 babies born in areas without obstetric providers or hospitals or birth centers offering obstetric care.
Obstetrical units in hospitals have been closing across this country, and obstetricians, we're not increasing them at all across the country. So think about 1 in 8 has no access to a place to be born.
Dr. Elizabeth Chereau says part of the reason is limited funding. And as a result, the maternal care deserts contribute to the high U.S. maternal death rate. A new CDC report shows that in 2021, there was a 40% increase in the death rate from maternal causes in the United States compared to 2020. After a spike during the pandemic, preliminary data suggests that the number of maternal deaths began dropping in 2022, but the numbers were still higher than experts would advise. Mississippi is among the states with the highest number of maternal deaths. That's where Byron Stribling lost his wife and unborn child.
We don't have a hospital. We don't have an emergency room. The nearest hospital was about 15, 20 miles away, give or take.
In the summer of 2021, Byron's wife, Harmony, was 5 days away from delivering their first child together. They'd already picked out her name, Harper. But on the night of July 4th, Harmony wasn't feeling well. Byron, suspecting something was seriously wrong, decided to take her to the hospital.
I thought she was having a seizure. She was shaking, eyes rolling in the back of the head.
Byron pulled over to perform CPR. Paramedics arrived 15 minutes later, but it was too late. Harmony and the unborn child died on the side of the road, about 3 minutes from the hospital.
Now we have multiple people that's dead because of a situation that could have probably been prevented if we had a hospital or something like that nearby.
They don't have any obstetric providers, over 50 counties. That's really, really worrisome. This is a crash course in obstetrics.
Rachel Morris, a maternal fetal medicine specialist at the University of Mississippi Medical Center, and her team have been trying to fill the gap.
Put your hand right here.
Training well over 400 first responders in parts of the state that lack maternal care.
There you go.
On how to step in case of an emergency.
We teach you how to intubate a baby. We teach you how to deliver a baby.
So this is not something they're supposed to be doing.
They are being forced to do it because of these deserts. Push, 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 push. Almost 90% of the mortalities we had over a 2-year period were deemed preventable.
How do you wrap your head around that?
That's why I'm here today. It's frightening. It's frightening. Something's got to change.
Things are changing, but not for the better. Since 2020, an additional 16,000 women have no nearby maternity care in the U.S.
Hospitals are closing. We understand that it disproportionately impacts women of color and older women.
According to the CDC, Black women have a 3 times higher maternal mortality rate than non-Hispanic white women, though all ethnicities did see an increase in 2021. Women over the age of 40 have a 7 times higher mortality rate than women under the age of 25.
Feeling okay today?
Yes, ma'am. At 38 years old, Dominique Armour is considered to be in her advanced maternal age. She's pregnant with her 10th child, putting her in a high-risk category. She tells me this will be her 4th time driving across state lines from Arkansas to Mississippi to give birth because she has few options.
My last baby, I almost had on the side of the road.
The only hospital in the county hasn't had a delivering physician in more than 5 years, and access to prenatal care is also limited.
This is my last baby that I'm going to have, so I just wish they had a doctor here.
Dominique is currently 8 months pregnant.
When was the last time you were able to see a doctor?
I think when I was 3 months, 4 months. It was hard because I had to go by myself. I don't want to talk about it. I don't.
A lot of women do miss their appointments because they don't have transportation.
How many women, pregnant women, come to the center who are in the same situation?
Just about everybody. Do you have somebody to drive you?
Alice Rogers with the Arkansas Birthing Project is exploring options like this March of Dimes mobile clinic to get women in the area access to more care.
This unit is doing what it can to provide services to the women.
It's just not enough.
It's just not enough.
Ohio has had the most women impacted by overall reductions in access to care since 2020.
It's heartbreaking. I think about the United States as some place that should be on the top of the forefront, yet we have the worst outcomes.
Back at the Tatawakcha Birth Justice Center, the founders are working to expand their services, hoping that one day they can build a new birthing facility on the Yakima Nation grounds.
We're trying to rebuild our kinship, our nationhood, our family strength, providing a safe place for our families and women and children to come, to have more options, to be cared for and to heal.
Our thanks to Faith for that. Still much more ahead. She was killed while in Mexico, and the suspect is still free in the U.S. The Justice Department is now weighing in on whether it will take action in the Shanquella Robinson case. Plus, using a book and a song to help kids process big emotions about the people they love. Married Broadway stars Leslie Odom Jr. and Nicolette Robinson tell us how they made sure young readers of all ages would not feel left out.
Not every adult in our children's lives that they love and care about is a parent themselves. And this is really, it's a book that it can be shared between a grown-up and a special little person in their lives.
But next, the Latin music boom. New data reveals just how popular Spanish language music is becoming in the U.S. We take a closer look by the numbers.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital. Destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
From America's #1 news comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
Brooke Shields, the most photographed woman in the world.
A sexualized child model.
Exploitation.
What happened to her isn't really about her, it's just about women.
I let myself be vulnerable, and this is the first time I've ever spoken about what happened. I thought my one no should have been enough, you know. When someone like Brooke Shields talks about it, it makes a difference. I'm amazed that I survived any of it.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. Been a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning, America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi!
This mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what people don't see during the commercial break.
Right, they don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasured that day. I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good.
Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Name, image, and likeness, or NIL. The 3 magic words that have upended the landscape of college sports as we've known it.
It's just the ability to make money through social media marketing.
It changed everything. My concern is, how is it handled?
Critics will say people like yourself are buying these athletes. I mean, what do you say to that?
Cashing in the debate over paying college athletes. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu. This is where the newsmakers come first in the morning to be heard. America's #1 morning show.
How would your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I can't imagine what it feels like to go from $20 billion to $100,000. Yeah. Are you worried about going to jail?
You write that you had low-grade depression. How'd you get out of that?
Wherever the story, ABC's Good Morning America is right there.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back, everyone. Latin music is booming, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. The growing popularity of Spanish language music is nothing new, but new info out today illustrates just how fast that growth is happening. Here are the details by the numbers. For the first time, Latin music raked in more than $1 billion in U.S. revenue in 2022, according to today's report from the Recording Industry Association of America. That's up 24% from the previous year, far outpacing the 6% growth in the industry overall. Latin listeners are leaning heavily into streaming. 97% of all revenue came from paid and ad-supported streaming platforms. 8% of all U.S. streaming revenues went to Latin music last year. The vinyl craze is less hot in the Latin genre, but sales still increased nearly 67% last year. The new numbers are just the latest validation of what's been clear for years. Latin music is steadily breaking into the mainstream, in part thanks to global superstars like Bad Bunny. With 18.5 billion streams, he was Spotify's most streamed artist globally for the third year in a row. And Karol G, 119 million streams and 10,000 copies sold, put her at the top of the Billboard 200 last month. She's the first female Spanish language performer to top the chart, and the first just keep on coming. This weekend, Bad Bunny will make Coachella's history as the festival's first Latin headliner. And we still have much more here on Prime. It's a pest problem one city is known for: rats. The job New York City has created to help rid its streets and homes of rodents. And she's set to make history at Coachella this weekend. Arab pop star Elyanna talks to us about her skyrocketing music career and the power of representing her culture on stage.
What does it take to be America's #1 news? It takes asking the straightforward, tough questions.
Do you believe that Donald Trump should ever be president again?
How would your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I can't imagine what it feels like to go from $20 billion to $100,000. Yeah. Are you worried about going to jail?
You write that you had low-grade depression. How'd you get out of that?
The news-making interviews.
You said that there were 6 friends. One of them was sick.
Yeah.
Do you have future political aspirations?
Going to the front line.
The search for survivors. How does this war end?
And getting to the heart of the story.
Thank you for being here. We'll be here for the long run.
ABC News, #1 in the morning, the #1 newscast, #1 in daytime talk, Friday nights, Sunday mornings versus the competition, and the #1 streaming news. Thank you for making ABC News America's trusted, straightforward first choice.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. But a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning, America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
This is ABC News Live.
The crushing families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital. Destructive Cat 4 storm.
We're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Name, image, and likeness, or NIL.
The 3 magic words that have upended the landscape of college sports as we've known it.
just the ability to make money through social media marketing.
It changed everything. My concern is, how was it handled?
Critics will say people like yourself are buying these athletes. I mean, what do you say to that?
Cashing in the debate over paying college athletes. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're going to love it.
13 women opened their doors to the man who would end their lives.
Truth and Lies, The Boston Strangler, the new true crime podcast series. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. And watch Boston Strangler, starring Keira Knightley, streaming on Hulu.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
How cute.
Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
The desperate search for a teen who fell off of a cliff. The Justice Department makes a decision on how it will handle the murder of an American woman in Mexico, how New York City is trying to handle its rat problem. Those stories and more in tonight's rundown.
Officials in Minnesota are searching for a man who fell into the St. Croix River. The Chisago County Sheriff's Office said the 18-year-old Wisconsin resident was spotted near a rock ledge overlooking the river in Interstate Park Tuesday. The man lost his footing and fell off the cliff into the river. Officials began searching Tuesday but paused at nightfall before resuming today. Federal officials announced that no charges would be filed in connection with the death of Shanquella Robinson. The North Carolina native was found dead in October while on vacation in Cabo, Mexico with a group. Officials met with Robinson's family to reveal their conclusions before the announcement. The family had called for diplomatic intervention from President Biden and the State Department to investigate what happened to Robinson.
Firefighters battling a wind-driven wildfire burning in New Jersey.
The fire burning through the environmentally sensitive pinelands in the middle of New Jersey. The blaze has burned over 3,800 acres, close to 200 homes evacuated. Firefighters on the ground joined by helicopters tipping them off to hotspots. April is peak firefighting season in New Jersey, with fire officials confirming they're seeing a slight increase in fire activity from last year.
National Public Radio is leaving Twitter after recently being labeled as U.S. state-affiliated media. NPR said in a statement that Twitter was, quote, taking actions that undermined their credibility when it implied the organization was not editorially independent. Twitter's policy defines state-affiliated media as outlets where the state has control over editorial content.
Rats running amok in the Big Apple may have met their match.
Her official title is New York City Director of Rodent Mitigation. Kathy Karate is the city's first rat czar. The former teacher and land use expert was chosen from 900 applicants to rid the city of rats. This has been an obsession with the mayor, who has said rats impact how you feel about the city. There's already been a push to put more trash in bins and to limit how long garbage bags can linger on the curb.
Madonna's Like a Virgin. Daddy Yankee's Gasolina, and a Mariah Carey Christmas classic. These recordings and more were added to the Library of Congress's National Recording Registry. 25 recordings were deemed worthy of being preserved for their importance in the nation's sound heritage. There are classics like Imagine and Stairway to Heaven, as well as Queen Latifah's All Hail the Queen. This year's list also included the Super Mario Bros. Soundtrack, the first video game soundtrack to be preserved. There are now 625 audio recordings preserved in the registry.
Welcome back. It's one of the most famous music festivals in the world. Coachella kicks off this weekend with a historic lineup that includes global phenomenons like Bad Bunny and Rosalia. Part of that lineup is Arabic pop's next big star, Elyanna. The 21-year-old Palestinian-Chilean songstress is blending cultures and genres, creating music that is true to the times and true to her roots. This Arabic American Heritage Month, ABC News Live is honoring trailblazers changing the game. Trailblazers like Elyanna will be the first artist to ever sing a full Arabic set at Coachella. Our Zareen Shah sat down with her as she prepared for the festival's first of 2 weekends and gives us an exclusive look at her rehearsal.
She's only 21 years old, but Elyanna is determined to make history. The Palestinian-Chilean singer, soon to be the first artist to ever perform a full set in Arabic at the world-famous Coachella Music Festival. In an exclusive rehearsal of her set for ABC News, we meet Elyanna ahead of her highly anticipated performance.
How excited are you about Coachella?
I am beyond excited. Like, everybody knows Coachella. Like, since I was back home, I knew what Coachella was. So the fact that I'm performing this year is crazy. I mean, it's a big responsibility. I am representing my culture, but I'm really working very hard.
And this is your first time performing at Coachella, but this is not your first Coachella.
No, this is not my first Coachella. We went to see The Weeknd perform, and before he went on stage, I went to say hi, and he told me, "Have you performed in Coachella before?" And I said, "No, never." He's like, "Maybe next year."
Elyanna's career took off 3 years ago with the launch of her first EP, Elyanna. In 2022, she released her second EP, Elyanna 2, featuring the Arabic version of a classic. In La Vie en Rose, Elyanna collaborated with artist Lana Del Rey and her sister Carolyn Chuck Grant. But Elyanna's story starts in Nazareth, where she was born.
First of all, I grew up in Palestine, Nazareth. I'm also part Chilean. So I grew up in these two worlds. And of course, they influenced me. And of course, they had a huge impact on me as a person and as an artist.
Palestinian and Chilean, but singing in Arabic or Spanish was not part of the original plan.
When I started singing, I was like 7 years old, and I always sang in English. I sang like Etta James, jazz, Aretha Franklin, Beyonce, Amy Winehouse, all these artists. And I never thought that I'm gonna be singing in Arabic. I remember I met my writer and producer, and he's like, "Well, I want you to sing in Arabic." And I left home, I was crying, because I'm like, I don't think I can sing in Arabic. I've never done it before. So, but once I was listening to the music we were making, and it was in Arabic, and I think this time I realized that, okay, I need to do something with a purpose. Yeah, I mean, it's who I am. So I do it naturally.
I also think just sitting across from you, you can see how naturally it comes to you. I mean, I would say like you wear it on your sleeves, but you literally wear your culture on your waist.
You're right. And look, I love fashion, so I also love to include Arabic in fashion, because it's very beautiful, honestly, like the coins, the embroidery, like all of it. And I think the combination is very cool, and I mean, why not? It's very cool, and it's very like rock star.
Representing her culture became her purpose, and she made it a family affair.
My family it's like my support system. My family is very involved with my art. I was discovered by my brother, and he always pushed me to do, shows and to do covers. And my sister is very involved with my fashion. And also my mom is an incredible writer. And I think she got her talent from my grandpa, who's a poet and an amazing singer. And we write songs together.
Her dad, mom, sister, brother moved across the world, settled in Los Angeles, and Elyanna's career started skyrocketing.
It's already very hard to move to another country. It's a whole new culture. Thank God I have my family that they're just always there with me, always around, and you just need to make sure you're strong, and you have to prove to yourself and to everybody that, yes, I am an immigrant, but yes, I'm gonna be where I wanna be. It's the American dream.
Living the American dream, but never leaving her roots behind. And that's what she hopes to show the world at Coachella.
We have a very beautiful, unique, authentic culture. And I want the Arabs to come see it and be proud and know that we're gonna do so much more in the future. And I want also people from other cultures to come discover and learn about our culture.
A mix of Arabic music, pop, and R&B. Elyanna's signature sound will be at the core of her upcoming performance.
We're making history, honestly. We're making history today, and the performance speaks to itself. The performance is all about our instruments, and the performance is all about our vocal scales and our attitude as an Arab girl, you know what I mean? It's just representation. The performance is my culture, it's who I am.
Elyanna will be performing the 2 first Saturdays at Coachella, one big step for this unstoppable young singer.
What is the dream for you? What is the career goal?
It's really just making sure that Arabic is international and our culture is everywhere and it's being heard. And hopefully one day to be able to tour in the biggest stages in the world. And we're just gonna keep pushing till it just gets where it's supposed to be. رسالتي للفانز إنه أول شيء شكراً كثير على كل الدعم اللي أعطيتوني إياه وكثير بحبكم وهي مومنت كبيرة لنا كلنا و I can't wait for you guys تحضروا الشو.
Looks like it'll be an entertaining one. Our thanks to Zareen for that. If you can't make it to the festival, Coachella will be live streaming all performances on YouTube. Now, from Broadway to books, Leslie Odom Jr. and Nicolette Robinson are a force. They sing, they act, and now the married couple is writing together. They're using the power of song and parenthood as inspiration for their first children's book, I Love You More Than You'll Ever Know. The book is about the love adults have for their children in their lives, connecting music to reading, accompanied by illustrations that represent all kinds of families. I sat down with the pair to talk about their latest journey. From Hamilton superstar, Grammy and Tony Award-winning artist and actor Leslie Odom Jr.
Hold your nose and close your eyes. Wanna leave us to say good day. Don't get us saying what they trade away.
And Nicolette Robinson, the first black woman to ever play the lead in Waitress on Broadway.
Sometimes I still see her.
A children's book, I Love You More Than You'll Ever Know. An ode and a song dedicated to the love a parent has for their little one.
When I count all my blessings, you're always number one. Sweetest of all is we've only just begun.
This married, multifaceted duo is diving into this new venture together.
It's a sweet thing when you stop and realize that your life is unfolding before you, so watching Nicolette sing with the kids before they go to bed. It's like a really sweet moment every single night. It never gets old.
You all do so much already, multi-hyphenates, sing, perform. Why enter into the world of writing a children's book?
We had a little baby, so we were reading a lot more children's books.
All the time. Yeah. Ever since we become parents, we've been slowly just, examining different parts of the children's world.
Do you both sing together?
With our bedtime ritual, I usually sing with the kids before bed, but sometimes.
Yeah, but I like being an audience member. I like being spectating that.
Read, sing, pray? Is that the order each night of the routine?
Yeah, every night.
So the book
started out as a song. And so was that something that was just impromptu during that nighttime ritual that you started the lyrics?
We knew we were gonna write a children's book, and Nick and I just took a little time to think about what it might be about, and yeah, it was that trying to connect those two things, music and reading, you know, from our own experience with our kids, that we tried to incorporate.
We want people to be able to turn on the song and you can read along with the song if you want. You can...
I love you more than you'll ever know. You take my hand and then off we go. Day by day as I watch you grow. I love you more than you'll ever know. Oh.
You can sing the song separately or you can read the book separately. Our kids like to choose whether we're reading or singing the book each night. Joy Huang Ruiz, who is our brilliant illustrator, she included little pieces of personal bits that are of our family in there. So the kids, Lucy has her little bear that she sleeps with at night, and Abel's little passy.
The illustrator did such a great job of recreating you all in the book. Do they recognize you and themselves in the book as well?
Yeah, and their grandparents are in the book too. And it was really important to us that it had all different types of people within the book. So it's not just us in the book, but we wanted everyone to be able to identify and feel represented within the pages of the book. So Joy did such a beautiful job making it so colorful and joyful. It was better than we could have ever imagined.
That's the beautiful thing about representation, you know. I mean, this is the first book that they appear, but I mean, in your books, you know, like your books look enough like our children that they, you know, they'll feel like they're looking at themselves, looking in your books. It's a beautiful thing whenever, as a human being, you can feel like you are included in the story. Right. When it's even a little bit about you too.
That inclusivity is so important. Somebody told me a long time ago that if kids don't see themselves in books, they'll stop looking to books to find themselves, right? And they'll look other places. Curious, you've talked, Leslie, before about the idea that this is not just limited to a parent's love for their child. Tell me beyond what you mean by that.
We wanted it to be inclusive in that way too. That you know, not every person, not every adult in our children's lives that they love and care about is a parent themselves. And this is really, it's a book that it can be shared between a grown-up and a special little person in their lives. So it's aunties and uncles and godparents and grandparents, mentors, teachers even, you know, it's like these are big feelings even for grown-ups. They're big emotions to express, and so sometimes music also helps those things. You know, they're a little easier to communicate sometimes through song. It's to know that you're loved and you're cared about as you move about this world does a large part in setting up a kid with the kind of confidence that they'll need to do the things that they're destined to do.
What's next for you guys? Any more books in the offing?
We want to see how people receive this one first. Okay. But we had so much fun making this book. We'd love to do another one.
I Love You More Than You'll Ever Know is now available wherever books are sold. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, new developments in Dominion Voting System's billion-dollar defamation case against Fox News, why a judge is now sanctioning the network, and a tale of childhood basketball and family. Actor Derek Luke joins us to talk about the lessons to be learned in his new series, The Crossover.
Me, what I'm asking you to do is dangerous. Hide my family.
If I don't try, I don't think I'll be able to live with myself.
Right now in America, with so much at stake, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings. This is where the newsmakers come first in the morning to be heard. America's #1 morning show.
How would your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I can't imagine what it feels like to go from $20 billion to $100,000.
Yeah.
Are you worried about going to jail?
You write that you had low-grade depression. How'd you get out of that?
Wherever the story, ABC's Good Morning America is right there.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital, destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5. Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi! Is this mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what people don't see during the commercial breaks.
Right, they don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasured that day.
I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good.
Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yeah.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Name, image, and likeness, or NIL. The 3 magic words that have upended the landscape of college sports as we've known it.
It's just the ability to make money through social media marketing.
It changed everything. My concern is, how was it handled? Critics will say people like yourself are buying these athletes. I mean, what do you say to that?
Cashing in the debate over paying college athletes. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Hi there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. Federal prosecutors announced they will not bring charges in the murder of Shanquella Robinson, a North Carolina resident who was killed in October while vacationing in Mexico. The 2 U.S. attorneys involved in the case said in a statement that the evidence and autopsy do not support a federal prosecution. However, Mexican authorities told ABC News their investigation remains open. A judge overseeing Dominion Voting Systems' $1.6 billion defamation suit against Fox News imposed a sanction against the network after it made misrepresentations to the court and potentially withheld evidence. Dominion's lawsuit accuses Fox News of knowingly pushing false conspiracy theories that the voting machine company had somehow rigged the 2020 presidential election in Joe Biden's favor so the network could retain viewers. Now to the latest move in the 2024 election, with Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina announcing he's forming an exploratory committee to consider a run for the White House. Scott revealed his plans in a message to supporters this morning, not mentioning former President Trump, but instead taking on Democrats. The Senate's only black Republican insisted that Democrats, quote, weaponize race to divide us, pitching his own life story as proof of an alternative path forward. Now to the mass shooting at the Louisville, Kentucky bank and the frantic 911 calls, one from a witness inside the bank, another from the suspect's own mother on a tip from her son's roommate, warning that he may be armed and on his way to the bank. ABC's Trevor Ault is in Louisville for us again tonight.
Tonight, chilling new 911 calls revealing as the Louisville gunman's rampage unfolded inside Old National Bank, his own mother was trying to warn police.
Well, my son might be... He apparently has a gun and he's heading toward the Old National at on Main Street here in Louisville.
Main Street, Old National?
Yes, and this is his mother. I'm so sorry. I'm getting details secondhand. I'm running to it now. Oh, my Lord.
Okay. And what exactly is going on with him? What is he saying he's doing?
I don't know. I'm getting this information from his roommate. He apparently left a note. I don't know what to do. I need your help. I think he's never hurt anyone. He's a really good kid. Please don't come up to him. Please, he's non-violent. He's never done anything. Please.
Okay, and you don't believe he owns guns?
I know he doesn't own any guns.
What that mother apparently didn't know is that he'd purchased an AR-15 just 6 days prior. And as the shooting began, more calls coming in You can hear the fear and the gunfire from this caller hiding in a closet.
Is that shots fired? Yeah. Okay, just stay quiet.
Officials say the shooter first opened fire in a crowded conference room meeting. Another caller was attending virtually over Microsoft Teams.
And how do you know you have an active shooter on the site?
I just watched it.
How'd you watch? You watched it on a Teams meeting?
This video is still going. Oh my God! I can't see anything now except for somebody on the ground.
Stop right here. Back up, back up, back up, back up.
3 minutes after those first 911 calls, officers Nicholas Wilt and Corey Galloway arriving on scene. As they approach, Officer Wilt shot in the head. Officer Galloway grazed by a bullet, still killing the suspect moments later.
Suspect down! Get the officer!
But even with that swift response, 5 people were killed, many more injured. The chief medical officer at the hospital treating the victims talking about the damage done by an AR-15 round.
The rifle rounds pulverize and liquefy tissue because of how fast they're moving. They powder bone. They tear large gaping holes in tissue. You don't see that with a handgun. You simply don't.
Overnight, the family of Connor Sturgeon writing, "No words can express our sorrow, anguish, and horror at the unthinkable harm our son Connor inflicted on innocent people, their families, and the entire Louisville community." Adding, while Connor had mental health challenges which we as a family were actively addressing, there were never any warning signs or indications he was capable of this shocking act.
Shocking and just so disturbing. Trevor joins us now from Louisville. Trevor, we know that the suspect bought that AR-15 legally 6 days before the shooting. Is there anything in the system at all that alerts authorities of mental health issues?
No, there's not. There is no Kentucky law that prevents a person who is actively undergoing mental health treatment from buying a weapon legally. And also, Kentucky law now prevents authorities from destroying this shooter's AR-15. Instead, this gun is likely going to be auctioned off back to the public.
All right, Trevor Ault, our thanks to you. In Tennessee, the second black Democrat expelled from the state house after gun control protests. Representative Justin Pearson has his job back tonight. Pearson was reinstated by a unanimous vote of his local board of commissioners. And now Senate Democrats are asking the Justice Department to investigate those expulsions. Here's ABC's Alex Perez.
You gotta serve the people who sent you.
Tonight, a major win for Justin Pearson as Shelby County officials in Tennessee using their power to unanimously reinstate the representative.
Reclaim democracy.
Energized, Pearson addressing supporters who marched through Memphis today.
They tried to kill democracy. Yeah. They tried to expel the people's choice and the people's vote. Yeah. And they awakened a sleeping giant.
Representative Justin Jones reinstated Monday.
Expelled.
Both black Democrats ousted by the Republican-led legislature.
We will not be silent.
After taking to the floor of the chamber, demanding something be done about gun control, just days after 3 9-year-olds, a custodian, a teacher, and a principal were killed in a school shooting. Fellow Democrat Gloria Johnson, who is white, spared expulsion by 1 vote. And tonight, late word, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has asked the DOJ to investigate whether Tennessee Republicans who ousted the pair violated the Constitution or civil rights laws.
Our thanks to Alex for that. Tonight, there are serious environmental concerns 24 hours after a massive fire broke out at a plastics recycling plant in Indiana. Firefighters battled the flames around the clock. Part of the 14-acre facility is still on fire, and it could take days to put it out. The EPA is warning that the smoke is harmful, and the town's mayor is now demanding the plant's owner pay up. Alex Brachet has this story.
Tonight, frustration and anger in Richmond, Indiana, after this recycling plant fire many say should never have happened.
We were aware that what was operating here was a fire hazard. So this was a fear for us and why we've taken so many steps to prevent this from happening.
The city of Richmond had ordered the business owner to clean up, but officials say they were ignored. Satellite images show the buildup of recyclable materials outside the facility over the past decade. Overnight, first responders containing the flames, but they're expected to burn for days. Officials believe it started Tuesday afternoon. A semi-trailer caught fire. The
the blaze spreading to this abandoned recycling facility.
Evacuations ordered for more than 2,000 residents within a half mile. Others outside the evacuation zone asked to shelter in place.
Health officials say that breathing in toxic particles found in smoke could cause burning of the eyes, tightening in the chest, bronchitis, and aggravate asthma.
Nikki Williams and her family forced out of their home.
What's your biggest concern now?
Smoke damage, I don't know how that works. I don't know how much damage the smoke will do.
Lots of concern there. Thanks to Alex for that. President Biden is in Ireland tonight, mixing diplomacy with a bit of heritage. In Northern Ireland, he met with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and then visited the town that his ancestors come from. ABC senior White House correspondent Mary Bruce is traveling with the president in Dublin tonight.
For President Biden, this trip is both personal and political, traveling to Northern Ireland to mark the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement that ended years of sectarian violence, and to celebrate a sort of homecoming. Well-wishers lining the street, Biden snapping selfies and shaking hands as he arrived in his ancestral home of Dundalk, Ireland.
When you're here, you wonder why anyone would ever want to leave.
Earlier, the president visiting Carlingford Castle, likely one of the last glimpses of Ireland that his relatives saw as they set sail for America.
How does it feel to be here, sir?
It feels wonderful. It feels like I'm coming home.
The president acknowledging some tensions remain in Northern Ireland, but hopeful for sustained peace.
Your history is our history, but even more important, your future is America's future.
Now, tomorrow, President Biden gets back to business. He'll be meeting with Ireland's president and the Taoiseach, who acts as the prime minister. Biden will also be delivering remarks before Parliament. Lindsay.
Mary, thank you. E-cigarette maker Juul has agreed to its largest settlement ever. The company is accused of marketing to minors and says that it will pay $462 million to 6 states and Washington, D.C. The settlement will also force stores to keep Juul products behind counters, check the age of customers, and Juul can no longer use people under 35 in its advertising and marketing. Former President Trump is suing his former attorney Michael Cohen for $500 million. The lawsuit accuses Cohen of breaching his attorney-client duties by revealing confidences and allegedly spreading lies. Cohen is a chief witness in the criminal case against the former president, who's been indicted on 34 felony counts here in New York. Now to the latest move in the 2024 election with Republican Senator Tim Scott out of South Carolina. He's announcing his forming an exploratory committee to consider a run for the White House. Scott revealed his plans in a message to supporters this morning, not mentioning former President Trump, but instead taking on the Democrats. Take a listen.
Today, our country is once again being tested. Once again, our divisions run deep, and the threat to our future is real. Joe Biden and the radical left have chosen a culture of grievance over greatness.
The Senate's only black Republican insists that Democrats, quote, weaponize race to divide us, pitching his own life story as proof of an alternative path forward. Still much more to get to coming up, shining a light on America's presence in the Middle East and its methods there. Former Obama official Stephen Simon tells us how his new book explores foreign policy in the region and what he calls the avoidable failures there. But next, the ancient discovery in Egypt, what archaeologists found when they uncovered a 3,200-year-old tomb.
Whenever news breaks.
The crush of families here in Poland.
Here in Kentucky, no match for the tornado.
From Monterey Park, California, on the ground in Ukraine.
Reporting from Uvalde, Texas.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
From Kathmandu, Nepal.
Truckee, California, covering record snowfall.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
Here at this airport in Tampa, it's already shut down.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Reporting from Jerusalem.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
Bring them on.
If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place as spectacular as, well, me.
I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends. Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom, boom, boom.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom! Now that's how you start your day, people.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Reporting from New York, I'm Mona Kosar-Abdi. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world. The bodies of 17 Guatemalans who were killed during a blaze in a migrant detention center in Mexico returned home for burial. Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said on Tuesday the migrants were unable to escape the fire because the person with the key to their cell was not available. Mexican prosecutors launched criminal proceedings against top immigration officials, including the head of Mexico's National Migration Institute. 441 migrants died in the central Mediterranean in the first quarter of 2023, making it the deadliest first quarter on record since 2017. That's according to the UN's International Organization for Migration. These numbers come as Italy's cabinet declared a state of emergency over the migrant situation. And just today, 700 migrants aboard a rusting old boat were towed into a Sicilian port. The boat got stuck at sea after it ran out of fuel. And an ancient discovery in Egypt, a 3,200-year-old tomb uncovered south of Cairo belonged to a guard at the temple of an Egyptian deity. Archaeologists say that they found a carved image inside showing the guard and his wife along with other drawings and religious offerings. America's presence in the Middle East over the last 40 years has been full of what our next guest argues were avoidable failures. Stephen Simon served as Senior Director for Middle Eastern and North African Affairs on the Obama National Security Council, following years of experience in prior administrations going all the way back to Ronald Reagan. In his new book, Grand Illusion, The Rise and Fall of American Ambition in the Middle East, he explores U.S. foreign policy through 4 decades in the region. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so you write about the ramp-up recently when we talk about U.S. involvement in the Middle East, which began in earnest, really, with the Reagan administration. And you write specifically that often meant, quote, applying military solutions to fundamentally political and diplomatic problems. How did that early framing really help shape what we would see for the subsequent decades as far as U.S. policy in the Middle East?
Well, it played out largely in the form of successive American administrations, Republican and Democrat, didn't really matter which, applying grand ideas that held a great deal of meaning for those administrations and maybe Americans more generally, but were unrelated to the facts on the ground out in the Middle East. And the attempt to apply those ideas to those incompatible realities in the Middle East led to successive disasters, and not just for the United States, but for the people of the Middle East as well.
And if we go back, you really critique the handling of the war, the Gulf War, basically as a lead up to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Why do you feel it was so problematic?
It was deeply problematic for a couple of reasons. The first is that we don't know if the first war with Iraq was avoidable. You'll recall that was because Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi dictator, invaded Kuwait. The U.S. administration then of George H.W. Bush decided immediately that that invasion of Kuwait would have to be reversed through the use of force, even though many people thought that they were alternative courses of action. The problem was that having decided on the use of force, the military plan that governed the war wasn't followed through. And as a result, Saddam Hussein ended up in a very strong military position after the war.
We're now 20 years from the start of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. We see the critical toll, devastating really for the civilians in both countries. Looking back now, how could both of those wars have been more successful?
Well, that's a very troubling question. I think the first war would have been more successful if the United States had gone all the way and simply dislodged Saddam at the time, back in 1991. Or, alternatively, having ejected Saddam from Kuwait, then said, well, listen, what we're going to do now is have a military embargo on Iraq, but otherwise not mess with Iraq any further. That was the second of two available approaches. I think either one would have made life simpler for succeeding administrations and probably made it very unlikely that after 9/11, George W. Bush would invade Iraq. The result was that after 9/11, Iraq was there in George W. Bush's gun sights when he was looking for a way to respond to the al-Qaeda attack on the United States on 9/11.
Lately, we've been seeing this increase in violence, clashes between the Israelis and Palestinians, especially under this latest Netanyahu government. What, if any, role do you think that the U.S. needs to play in trying to keep peace in the Middle East?
You know, there's not a whole lot the United States can do. The Israelis are now trying to figure out what kind of state they're going to have down the road, what kind of a state that they've been building until now, and what will it look like and how will it serve its citizens down the road. This is an issue that only Israelis themselves can decide. The United States can't intervene meaningfully.
Lately, we've been seeing China start to get involved in the Middle East. What's the end game there?
I think the end game there is that China is going to be a very important player in Gulf affairs. The Chinese export colossal amounts of oil from both Iran and Saudi Arabia, and the Chinese need that oil. China's economy is growing by leaps and bounds. Its middle class is growing, and at least for the next 10 to 20 years, Chinese demand for oil is going to be powerful. So, you know, the Saudis and the Iranians have got to pay attention to that. So I think the proper stance for the United States is to say, okay, you know, there's a silver lining here. We're going to have a peaceful Persian Gulf. We're not worried about a Chinese military threat in the Persian Gulf. That doesn't seem to be in the cards. But the Chinese are in a position to keep the Iranians and Saudis from each other's throats, and that's a good thing.
Hopefully you're right about the silver lining there. Stephen Simon, we thank you so much for joining us. The new book, Grand Illusion, The Rise and Fall of American Ambition in the Middle East, is available now wherever books are sold. And still to come, actor Derek Luke tells us how his new series is showing a positive portrayal of a black family and the personal experiences he brought to the set.
Name, image, and likeness, or NIL. The three magic words that have upended the landscape of college sports as we've known it.
It's just the ability to make money through social media marketing.
It changed everything. My concern is, how is it handled?
Critics will say people like yourself are buying these athletes. I mean, what do you say to that?
Cashing in. The debate over paying college athletes. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. Right now in America, with so much at stake, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
A critically acclaimed novel by Kwame Alexander has crossed over to the small screen on Disney+. Executive produced by NBA star LeBron James, the crossover is all about growing up, the love of family, and, of course, basketball. Take a look.
My brother and I always dreamt of becoming the greatest of all time.
Dad is a baller with a championship ring. That's inspiration enough.
I'm about GPA, not MBA.
We were unstoppable, or so we thought.
Joining us now is Derek Luke, who plays Dad and Coach Chuck Bell. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time meeting you. What's that?
It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure. All right, so let's talk about, first of all, it started as a book.
Right.
How did you go about taking this character and translating what you saw in the page to the screen?
LeBron James is an executive producer on this project. So his company found this amazing coach who is a real Chuck Bell. And he began to sort of steer me that it's not just about coaching and the fundamentals, but it's about making the athlete and the individual's life better. So I was just absorbing a little of his life so I can, interpret Chuck Bell's.
And you did it. You succeeded. So I actually have to admit, I've seen about half of the series so far because my son wanted to watch it, and he had read the book, and he kind of gave a spoiler alert right away and was like, oh, this is different from the book, because in the book, X happens. I was like, hey, what? So I'm curious how you decided the departure as far as what we saw in the book.
For me, what informs me is my own personal story. I was a mentee, always chasing a mentor. And just by the climate of just young men of color, I just feel like that role has changed a little bit, where we always need to see a mentor and a mentee situation. So I think that, Disney and George Tillman Jr. and all the producers wanted to expand a little bit on what happens in the book versus what is happening in our series.
How important is it for you when you are portraying? I mean, it feels like there is perhaps a loftier goal or task when you're portraying a Black family.
Oh, it's so heavy. Like I said, when I go out, I meet a lot of young Black men. And based on the work I've done before, they'll say to me, that's my story. But one story that's common with a lot of Black men, and I'm a hip hop fan, is that the no father present versus Chuck Bell, who is a present dad. And so I think that being in the business and knowing how powerful influence is, the more we see it, the more we want to be it. So I wanted to be a part of a whole loving family with challenges, but a part of that family.
We see, obviously, on TV a lot of the coming-of-age stories. How would you say that this one differs?
Wow, that is a great question. One way, or many ways that our story differ, is that we had poetry kind of weeded in our story. Number two, just looking at TV and TV that influenced me, I didn't always see a middle-class Black family navigating through the world.
I will say, as a parent, I felt good about watching this with my son, thinking like, oh, he's learning some new words, like he's learning a lot about life, and it feels wholesome and not like I'm afraid of something that he might see.
I feel you. I got two boys.
A lot of times when people see Black characters, they say, that's for Black people, that's the decision. But I feel like this is different. I mean, this really just speaks to families at large, not just Black families.
Yes. You know, a lot of my mentors in film, like, just transparently, I wanted to craft my career, Denzel to Sidney and many others. And what I loved about their story is the reaction that I had, many of the public had, Black and white. And so the story of Crossover, again, is about family. It happens to be a Black family.
But you call, as the coach and the dad, you have what you call the basketball rules of life. Do you have a favorite or one that you will instill in your own boys?
I told him the other day, son, your life is like a ship, but your mouth represents the rotor. And if you use the right words, you'll steer your ship in the right direction.
That's deep.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, well, on that note, we can't even go any further than that. All right, Derek Luke, really thank you. A pleasure to meet you. Want our viewers to know that you can stream all episodes of The Crossover now on Disney+. And that is our show for tonight. I'm Lindsay Davis. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, Roku, the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things